Friday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope your weekend is off to a great start. Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated talked about the Browns' recipe for winning football games this season.
I don't know that that path is going to include an elite passing game, right? So let's say that path is you have your quarterback throwing for 250 yards a game, a couple touchdowns, maybe he gets picked off once per game, right? And then you've got a really strong running game and a dominant defense. Like that, to me, feels like the most likely path that the Browns would have to getting back to the playoffs this year, or at least contending for a playoff spot. So, I mean, that doesn't make the quarterback irrelevant. Of course the quarterback's important. It's the most important position in sports. But it also makes DeJuan Jones important. It also makes Quinshon Judkins important. It makes Dylan Sampson important. It makes the guys on defense important, too. It makes Mason Graham important.
Bottom line is they won't be able to rely on a quarterback to win football games. Former NFL running back LaShawn McCoy, with what he sees in the Browns' quarterback competition and who should be the starter.
All these other players, respectfully, I know what they're going to give me. Joe Flacco, I see what you did last year. I know what you kind of going to give me. Right? Kenny Pickett. I love Kenny Pickett, Pittsburgh guy. I got an idea kind of what he's going to give me. Dylan Garrett, I mean, he should give me some great reps for the scout team going, getting the defense ready for the season. Yep. But Shador, we don't know. We don't know what he got for us. You know why? He got a big ceiling. You got a first-round quarterback in the 5th round. Yeah. That's a blessing. So I think they should take advantage of it. Everybody I'm hearing over here talking to, they saying that look like he's the best quarterback. And if he plays well, it should be a no-brainer.
Well, I'm glad that the TV thing is working out for LaShawn, because that type of rationale with he's got a high upside, so we got to see what we got. That's a good way to have bad quarterback play, as Browns fans know, based on what we've done since 1999. That's it. Just because he can run the football doesn't mean he knows football. Tony Grossi, longtime Browns beat reporter, talked about the playing time for the quarterbacks in the preseason, especially the rookies.
I would think that the first 2 games we will see Gabriel and Sanders a lot. And I don't even know if we'll see Flacco and Pickett in the games. We'll see them in the practices against those teams. Against those teams' #1 defenses. And then I would think that in the 3rd game against the Rams, we would see the Browns' legit opening game starter.
I would agree, and I would just caution, if one of the rookies looks really good in a preseason game, remember, Dorian Thompson-Robinson looked pretty good in some preseason games as well. So it's not the same in preseason as it is in the regular season. Guardians trying to make it 2 out of 3 over the Yankees in New York yesterday. It was Slade Cecconi against Max Fried as the pitching matchup. Game was scoreless as they went into the 4th inning. Cody Bellinger at the plate, and Slade Cecconi doesn't get it in far enough, and Bellinger takes it over the fence in right center. A 2-run homer to make it 2-0. 7th inning, still 2-0, Yankees with the lead, and it's that guy again, Cody Bellinger, RBI single to right field. That made it 3-0 Yankees. Still in the 7th inning, couple of batters later, it's Jazz Chisholm at the plate, and Chisholm up the middle, another RBI single to make it 4-0. Yankees shut out the Guardians 4-0. Stephen Vogt, manager, talked about the shutout loss to the Yanks.
I thought we did a great job getting his pitch count up. We made him throw a lot of pitches. We just weren't able to get base runners going, and it's hard to square his ball up. Like we talked about, he's got 5-6 different pitches. He's really added and subtracted the fastball velocity really, really well. He can pitch. He kept us off balance, but like I said, I was really proud of our at-bats off of him. We just weren't able to get base runners, and so for him to get through 6 with his pitch count up like that was impressive.
How frustrating is it to leave the bases loaded there? What, 6 or 7?
Yeah, very frustrating. Obviously, we want to at least get 1 there. But, you feel like you get a little bit of a break on the throw to third there and get the bases loaded, 1 out. Obviously, Tim Hill's one of the best lefties relievers, and it's a tough matchup for Bo. And but of course we'd like to get a run there. We just weren't able to.
Home tonight, start a 3-game series against the Houston Astros. Logan Allen and Colton Gordon are the starting pitchers in that one tonight at 7. Shane Bieber will not make his scheduled second rehab start. Was supposed to be tonight in Akron. Had some discomfort in his throwing arm after throwing that bullpen a couple days ago. So he and the medical team from the Guardians going to meet, see what the next steps are. Garrett Bush from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show is up first. We're talking Browns on the other side of the break. Stay with us on Sports4CLE. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. Browns are up first on Sports4CLE. Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated with a realistic goal for Browns and their fans this season. This from 92.3 The Fan's Afternoon Drive.
A realistic area to be in is competing for the playoffs in December. They were an 11-win team 2 years ago. Now, we'll see what happens with the other teams in their division, but I think if Aaron Rodgers is there, if the Bengals are locked in the way I think a lot of people, myself included, expect them to be locked in, then it's going to be a tough division to compete in, right? And it's going to be a tough road to hoe to get to the playoffs. But, I think based on, the makeup of, the gutsier roster where, you've continued to be in on, again, Garrett, Ward, Antonio, and some of the older offensive linemen that you have on top of that, I still think, if that's where you're at in your building process, then you should expect to have a team that's contending for the playoffs that looks attractive for some sort of quarterback, whether that's one you already have or somebody you'd be pursuing in 2026.
Well, let's welcome in Garrett Bush from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, as well as the Barbershop. So, G. Bush, you've heard a lot of stuff, 3 wins, 5 wins, 6 wins. What are your expectations for this team?
When we look at it all the time, we talk about expectation levels and what people are looking to do. And I always caution people to, when we talk about the scheduled game and we talk about the Cleveland Browns, there was a year that they went to the playoffs with 3 or 4 or 5 different quarterbacks, and Joe Flacco stepped in. Last year, they had high hopes with Deshaun Watson coming in. They were going to be getting Nick Chubb halfway through the season. Amari Cooper had came off a great year. You had the Defensive Player of the Year in Myles Garrett, and you win 3 games. So, everybody, we do this every single year, but we fail to realize that it's very rare to predict what a team is going to do, and especially when you take a look at what the Washington Commanders did. The Washington Commanders went to, the NFC Championship game with a rookie. They go and they play ball, and they didn't have that big of a great season the prior year. Hence the reason they were able to draft Jaden Daniels in the top 5 of the draft, and they did what they did. There's a team that always goes worst to first every single year, unless you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you always kind of make the playoffs somehow. But that's another story. But I get where people are saying that they can win 3, 4, 5 games this year. I don't see it being a 3, 4, 5 win team. First and foremost, I think they'll be more competitive because they're doing what they need to do in the offseason more competitively. They do have veterans in there in the beginning, and it doesn't look like they're going to start a rookie from Jump Street. You have some pieces and parts. I like what some of the rookies that you have in the backfield. I think you can have a better running game, and I think the game plan is going to be keep it close this year, run the football, run some play action stuff, and see what you got. I don't think they're going to win 3 games this year. I think they're not that bad of a team, especially because you do have Joe Flacco and you do have Kenny Pickett, who they think can be a veteran presence. So you shouldn't be losing 14, 15 games when you have veterans that could help you out a little bit. But we want to see some of the rookie quarterbacks too. So I think the roster is too talented to just say the Browns are going to win 3-4 games. I expect them to win somewhere in the 6 to 8 game range. If you could get 6 games and you have to play one of your rookies, but you find out that one of your rookies is going to be a franchise guy, then I think it's worth it. 6 wins is a competitive season. 6 wins, 7 wins means that you're in every football game. I think each game and each season is a little bit different, and somebody's 7-win team could be disappointing, or a 17-win team with a rookie quarterback can be something that is exciting moving into the next year. But I don't think they're going to be in the 3-4 range. I just think the team has too much talent. And to be honest with you, Kevin Stefanski, I don't think can afford to have one of those type of years again. So I think he's trying to make the best of this.
So we got to look at DeJuan Jones. OTAs, met with the media, talked to the media, did all that stuff. What were your thoughts, and how important is he to what the Browns want to do?
Loved it. I love what I've seen from DeJuan Jones. He looks to be down a number of pounds. I don't know if it's 60, 50 pounds, but he's looking very athletic. He's looking in shape. He's looking like he's taking his nutrition and his career seriously. And when he heard him talk about it, he's just really watching what he's eating and just taking it seriously. DeJuan Jones has always had massive upside in terms of what he could be, and probably be one of the best tackles in the league, and to be a guy that's going to be a franchise pillar moving forward. You look at his size, you look at his frame. I think it was important for him to take that weight off his frame because, we talked about it a lot, back when I used to play, and I had a knee surgery, multiple knee surgeries. They talked about how much weight and for every pound of pressure you take off, it's like almost 3 pounds that it takes off your frame in terms of wear and tear and what you have to carry around. So I think it'll be wonderful for him. He'll be in more shape. He'll be able to be lighter on his feet when it comes to dealing with pass rushers, and it's going to keep him from not being able to play and putting weight on his joints when you need to bend, move, fire off, and be able to move guys off the line of scrimmage. I thought DeJuan Jones came back looking in great shape, and this is the type of DeJuan Jones we need to see, because they're going to be counting on him a lot this next year. Because if you think about it, if you do get an opportunity to find DeJuan Jones, if you do find a franchise quarterback in one of the 2 quarterbacks, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, then you don't need to draft a quarterback, and you don't need to take a left tackle high in the draft with one of the double first-round picks that you got. You might be able, for once in a lifetime, go out and identify a receiver. And can you imagine you have 2 receivers, not just one receiver? Not just one and some fullbacks and tight ends. You might be able to spend a first-round pick on a luxury receiver. That sounds great to me.
He's our receiver, singular. All right. Tom Pelissero, NFL Network, evaluating the Browns quarterbacks during this offseason. This from The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
A lot of times when you're going through the spring and the way the teams structure their offseason programs, you're installing everything, right? Your process of OTAs and mini camp, it's a lot of install, and then there's some review as you get into mini camp week. Then you come all the way back to training camp and you do it again. So they're exposing him to a lot of different types of things here. They're exposing all the quarterbacks to different things. They're seeing how they react. I've said this consistently, Jason. I think that's the important thing to remember. Let's see how the reps are divided those first 2 to 3 weeks of training camp, and then up to and the week beyond the first preseason game. That's going to give you a much clearer picture of exactly where things stand. Is it going to be the chalk starter, which you have to say is Joe Flacco, again, based upon the experience that he's got in that system, and they know what they're going to get for him? Do you potentially see somebody else starting to slip in and getting those first team reps? If you see it in training camp, that's going to be the clear indicator. But the fact that OTAs, Shedeur Sanders is not atop the depth chart, that shouldn't shock anybody, because regardless of what his name is, He's a 5th-round pick, and those guys just don't get spring opportunities to show that they can run the ones.
Well, and G. Bush, everybody makes a lot out about this, and let them develop Shedeur Sanders the way they see fit. Let them work with him and put him, give him, they're going to, you want a quarterback, I want a quarterback, every fan wants a quarterback. Kevin Stefanski needs a quarterback more so than any of us, all of us combined. Let them give Sanders what he can handle when he can handle it.
Yeah, man, like, I was saying this before, and I know people is up in arms and people get excited about it. Trust me, when you get a guy like Shedeur Sanders and you think that maybe he was treated a little unfairly in the pre-draft situation, and you think he slid because of some of the narratives that were going around, I get it. But one thing that you got to understand is you can't microwave everything. Like we want to microwave everything to a point where it's like, if he's not getting no reps today, now mind you, we don't even know what kind of reps he's getting behind closed doors. Let's start with that. Second of all, it may work to his advantage that he's not getting first-team reps, because if he was getting first-team reps right now, I guarantee the reporting would be, hey, why is he getting first-team reps? Everything would be about whether or not he deserves these reps. Is it a 5th-round pick? Is he starting week 1? Listen, I run him behind closed doors, and whatever we was running back there, I give him time to get his feet under him and get his time to wrap his head around whatever is coming. And I promise you, people, I'm probably one of the biggest Shedeur Sanders supporters in the media. I wanted him at 2. I wanted him at 33. I think it's a blessing that we got him in the 5th round, and it's a skill to even have a guy that caliber. Here's the thing. He's going to get an opportunity. He's going to get an opportunity in preseason. He's going to get an opportunity in training camp. He's going to get an opportunity in some of these scrimmages with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Carolina Panthers. He's going to get an opportunity, and he's going to play in preseason games. And I do agree what he said. Whatever they do in training camp is going to speak loudly in more volumes than whatever they do today. And Shedeur Sanders is happy. He's content. He's not running around causing a stink. He's not stirring up anything. He's taking the reps that they're giving him. He's doing what he can with those reps wherever it is. At the end of the day, it's all about a process. You only can do what's in front of you, and you only can take advantage of what opportunities you get. Everything's a small step. Small step here, small step here, small step here. And guess what? It's not the worst thing in the world if he don't start at the beginning of the season. Trust me, he's going to play sometime this year. Just know that. And it's up to him, and I think he'll capitalize off of it. But once you get your opportunity, then go out there and do it. No one will be able to say that they gave him a position, they were just trying to sell tickets or jerseys. If they start him off at this rate, he's going to have earned the position, and nobody can say anything to the contrary. So it's all good. I want to see him play just as bad as a lot of people do, but there's a process to things. And guess what? He's not bucking the process. He's not jumping around and being upset about it. So while we're waiting, I'll do the same thing. It's all about the evaluation.
All right, OTAs last week. Joe Flacco mic'd up. Let's listen in as Joe Flacco is mic'd up.
Come on, Blake. You ever hit that bend?
What's that? Definitely not. I don't know if I've ever hit a public dance move in my life.
Nice, there you go.
I feel like his voice doesn't really go with like his body.
Hell no. Sound kind of look.
I don't know if his voice like goes with his body.
Shut up, bro.
Like,
Supposed to be deep.
yeah.
There you go, finish. 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 Hey, finish. Good ball, baby.
Held him up a little bit, but he was so wide open it didn't matter.
Nice job. QB's on 3. 1, 2, 3. QB.
So, G. Bush, you see that the guy he's giving grief to about the way he sounds was Quinshon Judkins. You see the interaction with Shedeur Sanders. A lot's been made about him being a mentor. That is what being a mentor as a professional athlete looks like. It's not putting your arm around the kid and saying, hey, kid, this is how we do it. Joking around so they feel comfortable coming to you when they have a question.
Yeah, man. I'm glad. See, this is why I like to see stuff like this, because it puts all that cliche stuff to bed. I hate cliches, man. You think. I give you an example. We've been doing this. We've been doing this a very long time. You've been doing this probably longer than me, and like it's not as if I'm doing takes and before we get on, he said, "Hey, G. Bush, I just want to let you know I saw the second episode of UCSS, and I wanted to give you a few pointers on that. Now, when you came out, you were talking about Browns. I thought you did a good job, but when you went to Cavs, I thought you strayed a little bit. Here's what I've been doing." That don't happen.
No.
You see what I'm saying? You see, like, why do we make up this stuff where we got this imaginary thing in our head about how it works in the locker room? This is what the leadership is about. It's making, that's the locker room where guys is comfortable. You're joking with guys. You're lighthearted. I like the fact that he said, man, I ain't never danced in my life. I don't think I never hit nothing in my life dancing, nothing. I ain't doing that. Because I like what he talked about with Quinshon Judkins. Like, I would have told them a nice little joke would have been like, Joe, I don't even know why we practicing fakes with this. You're not running this read option. Why are you running out? You need to just stop. Like, no one believes you on that. And I tell Kev, hey, Kev, you might want to let him put the keeper in. I guarantee, put the keeper in on the goal line on the 2-point conversion. The backside defensive end is not checking Joe on that. I guarantee he's not. This is what it's about, man. And by the way, how cool does Joe look back there? Like, look, this is why, to me, when they said Kenny Pickett's going to start, I said, for what? Joe Flacco's just back there, just it looked like he done it 1,000 times. Yeah, I know this. I'm not asking no questions. I know this. Yeah, I held him up a little bit. He was wide open though.
Yeah.
I like it, man. So that's Joe. Joe is a good dude. Joe is gonna give you the leadership in his own way. He's not gonna beat you over the head with nothing. And I like the fact that he still has that competitive spirit where he's going out there trying to win football games. And it ain't about rah 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 and I'm the adult in the room. I just like the way he goes about it. And like I said, look, I think he's the no-brainer to me that would start football games if the season started today.
G. Bush and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll hear some perceptions on what is different about Browns OTAs and what will be different about training camp this year. Sports for CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
At the Ohio Lottery, we make Keno fun your way. So go on, pick your wager. Will it be $1, $2, $10, or more? Your call. Then it's as easy as picking up to 10 numbers. Use any inspiration you like. You can even tag on the booster for a chance to boost your winnings up to 10 times. Every few minutes across Ohio, 20 out of 80 possible numbers are drawn. And if enough of yours match, you win. Keno is always fun your way.
We continue talking Browns on Sports for CLE with G. Bush from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, as well as the Barbershop. Browns radio analyst Nathan Zagura with his thoughts on the way OTAs have gone this far and what it means for the upcoming training camp.
If there's a big story coming out of training camp, and I know quarterback is obviously that's the big story, but the second big story to me is, folks, this is a completely different OTA than we've seen with the Cleveland Browns in recent years. The number of reps, the intensity of reps, all of it. I think having these quarterbacks is kind of spurring that on. Maybe not from the intensity standpoint, but the number to get all the work. So you're having a team that's getting a lot more work out of their OTAs than they have in the past. And I'm telling you this right now because I've talked about it with numerous coaches on this team. You're going to see, fans, when you come to training camp this year, longer, harder, more demanding training camp practices than you've seen in recent years from the Cleveland Browns.
And G. Bush, it's needed. They better be. I think one of the reasons you had so many injuries and one of the reasons you've gotten off to bad starts is because they haven't been physical enough in training camp. You and I have talked about that before.
We've been talking about it for years. And what we're going to do is we're going to extend the invitation to the Cleveland Cavaliers to do tougher training camps as well. We're going to the option for Camp Cupcake has now been declined. We need to see all of that this year in an offseason. But we didn't talk about the Cavs. Let's get back to these Browns. Yeah, this is what they're supposed to have been doing. They were supposed to have been like this because when you look at what they've been traditionally over the last couple of years, I'm glad they got the Greenbrier out of here. Listen, training camp ain't about bonding. Training camp is getting your body and your mind ready to go through a gauntlet in the AFC North. Forget all that kumbaya stuff, hanging out at the golf course, walking around. Guys, you don't got your offensive line ready to go. And then when you wonder why we spend half the year, guys look like they trying to get in shape. Mari Cooper came back just completely tired looking. He just looked like he just was a different person. I'm like, is that Amari Cooper playing tight end or something? Because this is different. All the offensive line, you get a lot of holding penalties, jumping off starts, false starts, all of that because guess what? You're not ready to get out of your stance. You're not in good shape. I like the fact that DeJuan Jones is smaller. I want to see Joe Bitonio playing at a lower rate. Wyatt Teller playing at a lower weight. Because guess what? We need to have those repetitions where now, and we're going back to being physical too. So we're going to need you to be ready to go physically to run the football and be a physical team. David Njoku. I thought David Njoku looked slow last year. Looked like he had a couple extra pounds on him that he doesn't normally carry with him. I want to see guys getting back to a position where we are competing for our roles. Linebackers, secondary, I want to look like guys are flying. Martin Emerson, you look like a safety last year. He had safety speed at best. I want to see guys getting back to being in shape, back to flying around the football, especially on that defense, getting back to where we were a couple of years ago, where it looked like when it was noticeable. When teams played the Cleveland Browns, especially at home, you was in for a long day. So we need to get back to some of that. And part of that is having more competition in practice, longer practice, and being more physically and mentally tough to handle the rest of the season in which you got to go through.
So you alluded to it. How important is the run game going to be? I mean, obviously, I don't think any of these quarterbacks are going to give you top 10 quarterback play. I don't think I'm breaking any news with that take, if you will. How important is the run game going to be? What do they need to make the run game as good as it needs to be?
Listen, first thing you need to do, first thing you got to be is healthy. Second thing, I want to get back to where's the fullbacks at, Kev? Where's the fullbacks at? You used to keep 6 or 7 fullbacks. Tight ends. I want to see multiple tight ends. I want to see guys blocking. Harold Fanning Jr., we know you can catch, but I'm going to need you to be a blocking guy as well. Would love to see him as some fullback, motioning out, doing some things out of the backfield. I think he can be a Swiss Army knife and figure out some mismatches. But it starts up front. It starts with that. Quinshon Judkins, I believe it should be a day one running back for the Cleveland Browns. I like his approach. I like how he keeps his pass down, and I think he's one of those guys who excels at running through contact. Dylan Sampson, I want to see something. Jerome Ford. Look, fam. Look, buddy. You got 2 running backs in here. 2. All of the dancing and the extraness in the backfield, that's going to be kept to a minimum this year because they got 2 running backs that they drafted fairly high who can both move, can both run, can both catch the football. So we're going to have to see a lot better running behind your pads and picking up the tough yards when you need to do it. And then plus, you're going to have to add the play action game to it. Last year, the Cleveland Browns did not attempt to even run the ball the way they should be running the football. Last year, the offensive line coach, I don't know what the heck he was doing and what the blocking schemes were, but the Cleveland Browns need to get back to the fact that we are going to make sure you got to respect the run. When you bring those guys in the box, guess what we're going to do? Play action's coming. And that's the key, I think, to the Browns keeping these games closer because they're not going to be able to beat them deep and do a lot of things outscoring people. They're going to have to keep these games close, make sure the defense can play. And Dustin Hopkins, feel free to go to a kicking camp over the offseason. We're going to be doing a lot of field goal attempts, and you was not getting it done last year. So feel free to go back to your 2 or 3 year old self that you were when you were kicking clutch kicks.
All right, before I let you go, Deontay Johnson, not at OTAs that were open to the public again. Again, we don't. If there's a reason, a personal reason, a physical reason, something in the family, all right, I'll accept it. But if not, man, that's a huge red flag. It's hugely concerning. This guy bounced around to 3 teams, was kicked off a couple of them. This is your last chance. Insurance sales is not the NFL, just in case somebody's wondering.
Hey man, I did insurance sales, man. You go knocking door to door, talk about, hey, are you and your family protected if something would happen to you? You good luck at that, bro. That ain't happening in 2025. Let me tell you this. I really hope, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, because I don't think that you could be that slow, or that you can be that
out of touch.
I don't know how to
out of touch
with what's going on. What were we doing? Because guess what? You got a perfect opportunity. You could come in, heck, get with one of the rookies. You know, it's just a 25% chance one of them gonna play at some point in time. Develop some love for them. Develop some chemistry. Learn the playbook. Get in here. There's a number 2 receiver position wide open, ready for the taking. Cedric Tillman has not had the level of career that we would have expected. There's position. You got to beat out Cedric Tillman, Jamari Thrash. I mean, you're not beating. You don't have much here. They're begging you to come, please, be our number 2 receiver and be ready to go day one. If you know the playbook, I hope there's something going on with him. I'm giving a benefit of the doubt. Maybe Kevin Stefanski can allude to it. I don't know if any reporters have asked him about it. I know it's OTAs, but come on, man. This was a great opportunity. It's not like we're talking about Myles Garrett. Miles Garrett ain't going to learn that in the OTAs. But you got a chance, man. And we need receivers. We got a help wanted sign in Berea walking down the street like one of those furniture stores going out of business. We got a receiver. We need one. What are we doing, man?
I'm with you. G. Bush, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Appreciate you.
Garrett Bush, make sure you check him out. Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, 11 to 1. Also, the Barbershop on the weekends. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Film breakdown, video analysis from this week's OTAs. Straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns. Time to welcome in Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. We're going to do film breakdown, video analysis of this week's organized team activities that was open to the media a couple days ago. So, Lance, everybody wants to know quarterbacks. And there's some highs, there's some lows. Let's start with the highs, and we'll start with Dillon Gabriel. Take us through what we see here.
Well, Dillon Gabriel's had a really good camp. All these guys have. So he's just a little check down here on their mesh concept they run. He's made a lot of really good throws. He's also made a lot of really bad throws. And a lot of that has to do with timing. And you can see Joe Flacco here. Joe Flacco, he's been up and down, but pretty consistent. You're going to see a really good throw by Shedeur Sanders there. You're going to see these guys, as you watch practice, really good throw by Pickett there. As you watch practice, you're going to see that these guys are all in a learning environment, and the narrative that one guy is a lot better than the other guy right now is just not true. All these guys have had their highs, all these guys have had their lows, but I'll tell you what they're doing. They're learning, they're all practicing fast, they're all being good leaders, but the depth chart that everybody wants won't happen until these guys get in the games and won't happen until these guys get pads on. Joe Flacco is in the driver's seat right now just because he's experienced and he can make all the throws and he knows where he's going right now. The Shedeur Sanders, Dillon Gabriel, they are doing really, really well, but they are not close to playing yet, in my opinion.
Yeah, and again, you wouldn't expect that they would be. It's a third-round pick. It's a fifth-round pick. It's not the second overall pick. It's not a top 10 pick, so there's no need to rush them in. All right, we saw some of the highs. There's also some lows from the quarterbacks. Take us through some of these.
Well, you're going to see here, just, it's a normal day, right? So you're going to see Pickett here. He's going to drop back. A little play action here. Protection breaks down. So you're starting to see, like, what happens in a game. And he has an overthrow. And all these guys really struggled. Dylan Gabriel really struggled with being high and being off target. But once again, you're going to see the pressure in front of him. You're going to see Denzel Ward makes a great play here. These guys have, you're going to see a really high throw by Pickett. These guys, and then lastly, Sanders, a little bit behind, pretty good throw. But again, they're starting to see stuff. They're starting to see better coverage. They're starting to see better players. They're all doing a really, really nice job. I just don't think the hype and or the negative talk about these guys is really warranted at this point. They haven't done enough. Any of the four, they're just kind of learning, seeing the speed of the NFL. It's early on. All these guys, as good as they are, whatever the depth chart is right now, it could be exactly opposite when the pads go on. So they've had their highs, they've had their lows. Most of the time, we see just their good throws on X. But I film everything, and I try to just be honest. And these guys are doing a great job. But those young guys, they're a while away from playing here.
Well, the other thing is, and relative to Dylan Gabriel, his height has been made a lot of. As a 5'9" guy, I have nothing against short quarterbacks. The question I have, though, you mentioned the ball going high. That's got to be a concern if you're Kevin Stefanski, because a short guy throwing high, that's something you got to work through, especially at the NFL level.
Well, there's interesting. So as I was watching practice, and you try to just analyze it. That's why I like when they get in the season, you can have the film in the end zone and the all 22 in the sideline, all that stuff, so I get a better feel of it. But for me right now in OTAs, are they going to the right spot? Some of the throws you hope are going to kind of fix themselves when they get more and more reps with those receivers. And quarterback, it'd be interesting. He's done a really good job through his career trying to find in those lanes, but that is a general concern. A quarterback is at his height, is an outlier, just like Drew Brees, just like Flutie. These guys who make it, they have to beat the odds, and Dylan Gabriel's no different. He's thrown for 18,000 yards in college at a high level in the Power 4, so he's played against really big guys and fast guys, but nothing like the NFL. But it'll be interesting, because we don't know if they're going through the right progressions. And if I'm a coach of the Browns, I want to make sure they're going to the right spot. And then you hope, because they're pros, the throws will get better and better once they learn the timing of each receiver.
And I do, it's a very valid point. He's had success. He's been 5'9" his whole life. He was 5'9" or 5'11" or whatever he is in college and had success. All right, defense, let's take a look at the linebackers and what you saw with the linebackers.
Well, the drills you have, it was just really, so you got Diabate. Diabate looks physically fit, lean, fast, great looking athlete. Jordan Hicks is very vocal. Again, all these guys, and then Carson Schweschinger, you're going to see here last, so much thicker than I thought. If you look at his lower body, you can see how thick he is and what a tackling machine he is. He led the major college football last year in tackles at UCLA, and his movement skills are not going to replace JOK, but this guy has a chance to be really good. They do a lot of really good drills. Here's where they're just kind of reading what the offensive line's doing and reacting as linebackers. Now, the thing about the defense during camp is that I think they've been in front just because these guys are two or 3 years in the Schwartz system. They look fast. They communicate very well with each other. The secondary communicates with the linebackers with the defensive line. These guys have played in this system for a while, and it shows, because when the offense is motioning or shifting or coming out in different looks, they are communicating and they understand the look. So I expect the Browns to kind of get back to where they 2 years ago with this defense. And I think Carson Schweschinger is going to be a big part of that. He's a really good-looking athlete in there at linebacker.
Well, the other guy that we haven't touched on, Myles Garrett not there, and you and I have talked about that. That's not a big deal. A lineman in OTAs, there's nothing that he's going to learn there. But a guy who has looked pretty good is Denzel Ward. What did you see with Ward, and take us through this?
Well, you got to play here where he breaks it up on Pickett. This crossing route, he's coming from all the way across the field. But this play is at the, towards the end of practice. The thing that I'm really impressed with Denzel Ward is his attention to detail in all the drills he does. For me, I'm kind of old school, and I follow my dad's lead in how the game of football should be played. But he's a guy that's in the front of the line. He plays with great energy. He's not a rah-rah guy, so he's not that leader everybody wants. But boy, does he play with great pace. He plays with great energy, attention to detail on all his drills. He works on his drills when they're in special teams. he's really never standing around. He's always working his hands and his feet, and he's very coachable, and he wants to be coached. And that's the thing you see with these elite players, and some things these young kids can learn something from. These elite players want to be coached hard, and being as close as I get to be there at practice, which I'm so happy, these guys want to be coached, and they're coached very hard by these Browns coaches. So very impressed with Denzel Ward. Obviously, he makes plays, but there's a reason he makes these plays. One is he's a great athlete, but two, he works on his craft, and it shows when he gets into team drills.
So the question relative to the secondary, how important is it that Greg Newsome and Martin Emerson they regressed? We can say whatever they want. They weren't good last year, and how important are they to making this defense what it can be?
Well, I think you see maybe their limitations a little bit. Obviously, they weren't first-round picks, and maybe there's a reason for that. They're really good players, but the secondary, unless you're a true lockdown guy like Revis or Ward or these guys who are just elite, it's hard to cover these NFL receivers, especially with these new rules. And as much as they regress, which I think they did, it shows you that they have to be complementary with that defensive line. They'll play a lot better when there's a better pass rush. They'll play a lot better when the offense is moving the ball and the other offense has to throw the ball a little bit because they're behind. So those guys, I think, regress, but they show you that in the game of football, there's very few elite guys. Everybody else is kind of relying on their teammates. And I think Newsome and Emerson are those guys. They're really good. They practice really hard. They're awesome. They're inspirational for me as a coach because they work their butts off. But it shows you got to have a pass rush in the NFL, especially because the rules are so against those corners with the hands off. So I think they'll be fine this year. I think that defensive line, Graham, other guys learning the spot. I think Obo's going to rebound a little bit. Alex Wright's coming back. I think the pressure will help those two get back to where they were a couple years ago. All right.
The last thing in our film breakdown, Quinshon Judkins. What have you seen from him, and what's when you look at him, what do you think?
Well, the clip you're going to see here is him just kind of like an outside zone. He's going to dip in and then dip out. And there's a couple of things that I'm really impressed with Judkins. First of all, he's got much more speed when he gets in the open area than I gave him credit for. In fact, I didn't have him high on my board, and I like to be honest because I get lots of praise on, oh, you like this guy. This is the guy I kind of missed. And Tim Bielik was really high on him. Dan Labby was really high on him. We do a draft special, and they were really high on him, and I see why. He's got great vision. He's got a really good jump cut in the hole. He's got really quick feet. He's got great lateral quickness, and then he gets to top speed really quick. Now, Sampson's kind of the same way. They're more alike than they are different. Judkins is 220-plus pounds, though, and that tells me that if you want to help those quarterbacks and you want to help the defense, win on first down. So the Browns, to help that secondary, to help the quarterback, to help these guys, both sides of the ball have to win on first down. Judkins is a guy that's going to help them get 4 to 5 yards on first down. Eventually, he'll break some. But for me, the success of this Browns team really comes down to, can they win first down on both sides of the ball? Because if they can, then they can rely on the strengths of both sides of it.
So relative to Judkins and Sampson, how good do they have to be for the Browns to be successful offensively? I think we can agree whomever plays quarterback is not going to be top 10, probably not top 15 in the NFL.
Well, I would say the offensive line, as much as those guys, as much as the two running backs. I think the two running backs, again, I'm not sure if they can carry the load. I think Judkins is pretty talented. Sampson's going to be a great change of pace, especially when people get tired. But what they have to do is the offensive line has to show that they are going to be better when they go back to this power, counter, pin and pull, weak side zone, this kind of bully ball. And if they can get to 2nd and 6, all of a sudden that quarterback who maybe is a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10 can get to an 8 or 9 out of 10. The best way to help a quarterback is to prevent that defense from getting exotic and make them line up in a base front and a base coverage because they have to stop both the run and the pass. If you get to 2nd and 3rd and long, that's when the defense dictates what happens, and that's what causes mistakes. And if the quarterbacks are not elite, which I think we can, probably understand that the Browns quarterbacks are not going to be elite this year, they could be pretty good if they can win on first down. They'll struggle if it's 2nd and 3rd and long consistently.
Lance Reisland, Plain Dealer, cleveland.com is always great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland, make sure you check him out. Really good film breakdown video analysis for cleveland.com, also in the pages of the Plain Dealer. We're going to step aside, take one more time out, other side of the break. Jacob Roach from the Orange and Brown Report straight ahead. Stay with us.
At the Ohio Lottery, we make Keno fun your way. So go on, pick your wager. Will it be $1, $2, 10, or more? Your call. Then it's as easy as picking up to 10 numbers. Use any inspiration you like. You can even tag on the booster for a chance to boost your winnings up to 10 times. Every few minutes across Ohio, 20 out of 80 possible numbers are drawn. And if enough of yours match, you win. Keno is always fun your way.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Longtime Browns beat reporter Tony Grossi talking about all of the reports from OTAs about how well Shedeur Sanders is doing.
You're not the only reporter, by the way, who covers the Browns on a regular basis who has written or said this in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard from anybody, actually. You know, we didn't get together yesterday. There was no media availability at the Browns, and I don't mean to disparage anyone. I just really believe in what I said, that the media are not doing Shedeur, well, they're doing him a disservice by overinflating where he's at right now. He's a developmental quarterback, just like Dylan Gabriel is. He's not a franchise quarterback. And I think the Browns recognize that and are, you know, taking their time in teaching him the way of their offense. Overinflating expectations are just not good. I think it's fine to like him and to hope for him to be the guy and to get excited when you see him. I just take offense to the reporting that he's clearly going to be the number one starter or he's clearly the top backup when he clearly is not.
And let's welcome in Jacob Roach from the Orange and Brown Report to the Barking Browns podcast. Jacob, they're not even in pads. You can't, this is not anything at all like NFL football that's going. This is like gym class right now.
Right. And the thing about it that gets me with some of these reports is that they have had 6 OTA practices and the media has been present for 2. So, like, I think it's really interesting when you try to draw some conclusions from that because you're only getting, you know, what, a third of the practices you've even been present. We don't even necessarily know what's happening on those other days. And I just keep, you know, pump the brakes a little bit. It is June right now. Like, you can learn. You should be excited that the Browns are back on the field. That's awesome. But, like, that should be kind of where it ends for me, I think.
Yeah, you cannot tell anything, really. Even the running backs, you know, you can say, oh, he's got quick feet, he looks big, he looks fast. But, again, you cannot tell anything about what is going to happen in an NFL game based on what is happening right now across the NFL. Let me ask you this. So how big, I'm not going to ask you, is wide receiver a concern? Because it should be. How big of a concern is wide receiver? Cedric Tillman not able to go in some of the OTA drills. Can you see Andrew Berry making a trade?
Yeah, I definitely think so. It's one of those things where we don't get a lot of injury information like in OTAs like we will in training camp and like regular practices come this season. So I don't know for sure about like, is Cedric Tillman, maybe it's just one of those things where he's working every other day because there's a minor ankle issue or whatever. We don't know the severity of it. He's out there at practice, like not like away with trainers or anything like that. So there's like a little bit of optimism for me. And maybe he was practicing when the media hasn't been there. So I'm not too concerned yet about Cedric Tillman, but if Cedric Tillman has an issue going forward, I'm even more concerned about the wide receiver room. Because for me right now, it's Jerry Jeudy, who I think looks really good, looks like he did last year. I'm very excited to see what he can do. If they can give him consistent quarterback play, like it doesn't even have to be that great, just more consistent than it was to start and end last year, like it was with Watson and DTR. I think he can have a massive year. But after that, there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of like, I like Cedric Tillman and what he can be, but if he's not available, then I'm really concerned. I also like Jamari Thrash and what he can be, but he has like 7 career targets. And Deontay Johnson is like, he can still separate as the elite route runner. We haven't even seen him at OTA. So like, it's definitely one of those things where I think, you know, we always talk about like, oh, you answer every phone call and you check about availability for everybody that's disgruntled. Andrew Berry, I think, is probably doing all of his homework that just in case they get into camp and they say, okay, yeah, what we got here, the hope, the upside, it's not enough. We got to go get something else.
Yeah, and again, Deontay Johnson, I'm hoping there's a reason he hasn't been there. It's not that, he's kind of taken this as, I'll get there and, I'll take it. There needs to be a little bit more of an urgency from him, at least in my mind. Grant Delpit talked about the Browns' mentality in this offseason, their workouts this offseason.
Everyone says OTAs feel a little bit different. Like everything, like in general, feels different this year. A little more intensity, a little more focus. Do you feel that as well?
I think that was a big emphasis coming in. Maybe, it was a little bit too lax last year. Maybe we need to go a little harder this year. So if it's any question about it, I think it's, we need to attack it at a higher rate, higher speed every day. Obviously it wasn't good enough last year, so something needs to change. And it starts with our effort, for real. So that's what we focusing on right now, controlling what we can control. We can't do too much physical, violence and stuff like that. So just making sure our tempo is as up as it can be.
Well, Jacob, if that's the message from the coaching staff, I like it. They got to get out to a better start. They had a lot of injuries. I don't know why that is last couple of years. So you got to look at everything. And whatever you were doing, don't do that again because it clearly didn't work.
That's what I was going to say. That a lot of people say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, and then being upset when the same thing happens again that you were doing it. Like, I had a conversation about this exact quote with Pete Smith for the OBR earlier today, where I was like, hey, what you did last year was 3 wins, so making sure you're ratcheting it up and going more intense and getting more reps, that's what you need to do. You've got to do things differently this year because the approach last year, it resulted in a garbage product on the field. And so you can't do that same thing unless you want to only win 3 games again this year. And you're trying to deal with these 4 quarterbacks and trying to figure out which one and to get enough reps to find out if you need to draft one in the first round next year, or if Kenny Pickett can do it, or one of these rookies. And one way to do that is ratchet up the intensity and get more reps. And that way you get your eyes on more situations and more, be like, oh yeah, maybe Shedeur really can grow into that guy. Or, oh yeah, really, like Dylan Gabriel can grow into that guy. And it starts with, intensity and reps and opportunities. And there was some stuff on the report card, the NFLPA report card talking about they weren't sure time management was a great strength of this staff. And it's clear that they put in, they took that to heart and are like, okay, let's use our time better. We don't get to have longer practices. So if we want more reps, we have to go faster to fit them in there. And then on top of that, they made a massive overhaul, hiring and promoting and changing a lot of stuff and bringing on more trainers and more medical staff so they could try to potentially fix that issue too. And so from those 2 aspects right there, I'm very encouraged by it.
So this is the 2024 NFL pressure rates with 4 or few pass rushers. So Broncos were number 1, 39.3. Browns were second at 38.2. Seahawks, Eagles, and Lions rounding out the top 5. Again, it's kind of concerning because that means the line, which some people said didn't play very well, they were getting pressure on them, but they still were not a great defense.
Right. And I think a lot of that had to do with the pressure rate not being converted, or the back end. There were some issues in coverage and some linebacker issues where I think quarterbacks, they were getting pressured, but they were able to get the ball out, and they kind of had some predictive coverages, and they weren't able to confuse quarterbacks. And when they got those veterans out there, which we saw a little bit of that in 2023, like when Matt Stafford and Russell Wilson at Denver, when they played the Browns, where they were able to kind of carve it up because they were a little bit too predictable in coverage. So when the pass rush wasn't able to get home, it just wasn't good enough. Honestly, I feel really good about the coverage bouncing back this year. I think Martin Emerson I expect him to play better this year. And I think the pass rush is even better. And the linebackers, I think I really like the outlook they have there. But they've just got to get home more, I think. They got it. The pressure is there, but they're not converting it to as many sacks and as many productive plays. So they just got to find a way to finish this year and then have some better coverage on the back end, which finishing on the defensive line will help the back end coverage as well.
So I've said it a couple times on this show. The Browns draft Mason Graham, Carson Schlesinger, middle of the field kind of defensive guys that are physical. I think that the front office, the defensive staff, whomever's responsible, looked at it and said, we need to be more physical up front. We need to be tougher in the middle. What's your take of those first two picks, those being the first two picks for the Browns?
That was a priority. That not only did they identify that as an issue, but they said, hey, if we're going to be successful in 2025 like we were in 2023 and like we weren't in 2024, those can't be issues anymore. We can't be soft up the middle, let them just run up the gut. And, you got Schlesinger back there who's a phenomenal run defender, and he has incredible range. And then you have who I thought in Mason Graham was the best run defender in the draft. And I thought he was the safest player because I think his run defense will translate the most from the college game to the next level. And yeah, you talk about intensity. What comes with more intense practices, more physicality? And, Grant Delpit even said it in that clip. He used the word violence. Like there is some terminology and things where they're focused on being more physical, more in your face, more, intense. And that's what that defense did not have last year. And if that defense gets that back, that's something they kind of had in 2023, I think, personally. And if they're able to get that back and put that together and be a better run defending team on top of the pass defense that we know can be good because we saw it a couple years ago. If all of that comes together and they become a complete unit, like this defense has top 10, top 5 potential if they reach their ceiling. And I understand that's a big if because you're betting on a couple of rookies to have a big impact, but I do really like those picks. And I do think that can take that defense to a whole nother level.
Jacob Roach, as always, great stuff. Thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it, Jacob.
Thanks, guys.
Jacob Roach, make sure you check him out, the Orange and Brown Report, as well as the Barking Browns podcast. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you Monday at 4 on Sports for CLE.